Okay, so if there are two words that I want you to remember by the end of today, or by the end of the session, those words are Terima, Kasih. So, just in fairness of audience cooperation and just get everyone awake, why don't you try saying that after me? So I'll start. Terima, Kasih.
Terima Kasih.
Great, just don't say it at the airport. Terima Kasih actually means thank you in Malaysian, and it's transformed how I think about gratitude in my life. So last year, I was fortunate enough to receive a Fulbright scholarship. Also thanks in part to the efforts of some of the committee members here, Thea, Latina, and Lang. So appreciate you helping me out, thinking about taking that next step. So 2 years ago, I found out I was going to receive a Fulbright scholarship to teach high schoolers in Malaysia. So I quit my job at Amazon, sold most of my belongings to Seattle, which I shouldn't have because I returned back to the city anyway, and shipped out to Malaysian Borneo, which is an island off the peninsula of Malaysia, and it's home to enormous amounts of beaches and jungles and sea gypsies and orangutans and over 300 Malaysian teenagers who became my closest friends that year. So, fast forward a few months, and as I adapt to the culture, and as I adapt to the language, and as I adapt to the students, I begin to notice something. Malaysians are at least in my community, we're an incredibly positive, incredibly happy, incredibly welcoming community. Their smiles were always radiant and warm. They were always willing to break bread, or in their case, huge portions of rice and curry. But as I began to form more personal relationships with my students, I began to notice a very powerful struggle form. And it started in a classroom where I simply asked my students to write a thank you letter. And so I'm sure probably most of you agree a thank you letter is an important life skill. It's an important personal and professional skill. So I said, write a thank you letter, and I want you to write it to someone that is meaningful to you, and I want you to use that letter to explore a very specific reason that you were thanking them for. And what I didn't expect was an outpouring of emotion in that class. So, one girl worked through broken English to write an incredibly stirring letter to her mother, detailing this beautiful conversation she had with her mother in a kitchen about the pains of growing up as a Malaysian teenager, and it brought everyone to tears. And another girl in the same class decided to write, partially in Bahasa Melayu, the local language, and partially in English, a very mature letter of gratitude to her ex, which was surprising to me at least. And they were able to sign their letters with the same two words, Terima Kasih. So I decided to, so this is the sort of post-reaction to that lesson, incredibly stirring, just to start it with, write a thank you letter to everyone crying by the end of the class in like a 40-minute period. And as someone who doesn't really have like an educator experience, it went from an ESL lesson that I thought would be important from daveseslessons.com to So I decided to pull on this thread to see how far gratitude could motivate these students to speak, write, and emote in English. And truly, this lesson snowballed. And I actually found that since a lot of my students had varying levels of English proficiency, a lot of these students, when they couldn't do creative or fictional writing exercises, they really responded to writing personal narratives that had simple, sort of direct prose, a la Ernest Hemingway. So that's what I really focused on. So over the next few months, the Gratitude Project involved hundreds of students, tons of lessons, and tons of writing workshops, exploring every aspect of gratitude, from not just writing to others, but also writing to yourself, learning how to alleviate stress as a yuppie or as a Malaysian teenager. Your mileage may vary depending on who you are. And I began to see, during that process, beneath their normally happy-go-lucky visage, what I saw was, in the hundreds of letters that they were writing, they were touching on topics that I didn't see in that community, including drug abuse, self-harm, inordinate amount of loss. Like, these people have seen a lot of death in their lives, and they're so cavalier about it because they face it so often in that community. And so we laid bare the spectrum of pain and love in these letters, and that was like an emotionally numbing month for me. Because as I spent one-on-one time editing their letters and inadvertently serving as their therapist, I realized that these students routinely face emotionally taxing situations. Yeah, that's me. This is just an Instagram scroll, so don't worry. I realized that they face emotionally taxing situations every day because the community that they lived in, the town that I lived in, was beset by really extremely conservative social norms, by poverty, by familial issues, and by an outsized importance of school pressures that we might not recognize also applies to Malaysia as it does to a lot of other South Asian countries. So, give me 1 second, please. So these students have to process all of these topics while going through their own growing pains. So they have to find, in a lot of cases, or at least start to find, emotional reconciliation in the face of troubled relationships. They have to find resilience in the face of severe self-esteem issues, and they also have to find acceptance in the face of family separation. And they had to do that all in the confines of a single letter. And they were, in a large part, able to do that. Obviously, to think that they would be able to find emotional resolution within the confines of a single letter and be able to say, Terima, Kasih, and be the end of that, is naive. But I like to think that the Gratitude Project can help people start the process of healing or the process of celebration for their respective narratives. So, I'd like to read just like one excerpt, just so you kind of have a grounded understanding of one of the more really stirring letters that I read involving self-harm. So, apologize if this is a little bit of a trigger warning. So her speech was called, or her paper was called Scar. And it goes, Dear Mom, typical Malaysian teenagers, I heard as I walked by a group of middle-aged women on my way home as I was stepping on the railroad that late evening. I was still wearing my baju kurung, the traditional Malaysian outfit for ladies. Mine was covered in pink, big pink roses over white fabric. My pink tudung, or headscarf, wasn't as neat as it was early in the morning. I noticed that the students were staring at me and whispering to noticed that the women were staring at me and whispering to one another. Those machik were uttering that I had brought shame to you and Dad, as they thought other teenagers and I were just loafing around in cyber cafes. When I walked into the house that Dad liked to remind us was his, you were waiting for me in the living room, giving me the same look that the old woman gave to me on my way home. And so here are a few other excerpts from other stories in our anthology that we published. So, what I want to say is, I hope you remember the power of Terima Kasih because its power is not unique to Malaysian communities. And to that end, I'd like to share with you an experiment that I've done personally in my life in the day-to-day grind that's helped reshape my own life. I'd like you, while you're sitting down, hungover, to think about 3 things that you're grateful for today or for this past week. And I'd like you to try that for the next 3 weeks. And I tend to write this down in my phone. It's about the length of a tweet. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, okay, I've got a pint of Haagen-Dazs in the fridge after work, so I'm solid for the day. Or I live in the Pacific Northwest, so being grateful for sunshine in Seattle is great. So I'd like you to try thinking of that, and I hope you remember that you don't have to be a Malaysian teenager to appreciate the power of Terima Kasih. So if you're interested in hearing a little bit more about my experiences, or reading an anthology of my student stories, you can visit my blog, easternstars.wordpress.com, or just reach out. Shoot me an email. Thank you.